Hey guys, I'm Regina and welcome to my channel, Rustic Skills. Today we're doing a little walk down the wash on my property. Gonna have a little chat about what I consider to be a very important off-grid topic, and that is going off the grid as a couple or in a partnership. Even more specifically, why couples fail when they go off-grid. I think going off-grid as a couple is an amazing thing. I think it is a beautiful thing. I know that you guys can do it. If you're out there watching this and you're a couple and you're thinking about going off grid and you're ready to have a different life and exit the system, I completely believe in you and I say, go for it. You can do this. Unfortunately, mine was not a success. My relationship completely failed and had a humongous nuclear meltdown when we went off the grid. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the challenges that you will be facing as a couple. I want to tell my story from experience to hopefully help you guys avoid some major pitfalls and downfalls that might save you from experiencing the same fate that I had. The sun is setting pretty quick, so we'll see how the lighting goes. My ex and I went off the grid in the beginning of 2021. Out of the 5 years that I have been out here, I've been out here for 4 of those years alone because we only lasted for 1 year out here together. We bought property in 2021. We believed that it was the end of society as we knew it. It was COVID. Everything was shut down. There was a lot of fear tactics being used in the media to scare people. It felt like the end of the world. We had both lost both of our jobs. We were already into doomsday prepping, and it just made sense. It was the natural progression to get some land and start homesteading and really fending for ourselves just in case this was it. And I think a lot of people felt that way during the COVID times. We bought property in October of 2020, and in January of 2021, we moved onto this land. And unfortunately, January of 2022, exactly 1 year later, we abruptly broke up. I'm not going to go into details of that breakup. In the blink of an eye, my ex left this property and I decided to stay. And it was hard and it was terrifying. So I just want to go over some things that I believe fueled our breakup into a fiery pit of hell. Hopefully you guys, before you make that jump of going off grid, or maybe you're already starting to homestead and you're running into some issues and problems, maybe some of this advice will help you so you don't have the same fate that I did. Now that is a pretty Arizona sunset. Now, the first reason couples break up when they go off the grid is over money. Of course, that is probably the biggest reason, and that was a huge reason that my ex and I broke up, where the relationship just boiled over and basically collapsed. This is probably kind of an obvious one, but I want to get into something a little deeper, which is the philosophy of money. You and your partner have to be on the same page about money. You have to be on the same page about your money spending habits. My ex and I, we had 2 completely different viewpoints on money. He loved to spend money. Not only did he love to spend money, he loved to spend money that he didn't have. He had no problem taking out massive amounts of debt. He had no problem financing everything he possibly could and just shotgunning it, hoping that everything works out in the future. And you know me, I'm exactly the opposite. I am completely frugal. I save up and I buy things with cash so I don't borrow against my future, even if I have to wait and make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. So we had 2 very fundamental differences in philosophies when it came to money. What is this here in the wash? Oh, this is kind of looking like a sign. I could repurpose this on my property. That is one kind of cool thing about the wash, is it does wash up some really weird stuff that I can kind of use. That clearly held a sign that got shot up. That's kind of cool. That'd be good for target practice. So because we had two completely different conflicting beliefs about money, once we went off the grid, everything just became a pressure point. Choosing what solar power to buy, choosing what to purchase and buy and build on the property. Everything, in his eyes was just, well, we'll finance it. We'll worry about the bill later. And for me, I'm like, whoa, let's pump the brakes. I want to be financially responsible, even if that means we have to be a bit more uncomfortable while we live out here. So you got to make sure your financial philosophies are the same. Another big thing about money and living off-grid as a couple is, how are you going to make that money? Where are you going to live? You are looking at relocating into a rural setting where there might not be nearly as many jobs, or the jobs that are available just don't pay as much. Is the man going to work and the woman going to stay home? Is the woman going to work and the man going to stay home? Are both going to stay home and start a business? That's what my ex and I did. We started a business together. We started an RV repair business, and honestly, it was out of necessity. Literally 3 months after buying the land, he got laid off. We both didn't have jobs. We had this property. We did not know what we were going to do. So we launched an RV repair business, and that RV repair business was very successful. As much money as we brought in because of my ex's very poor financial planning, he was drowning in so much debt. Most of the money we made had to go to his bills. And the biggest bill that we had was the massive RV that we lived in. We had a beautiful 41-foot Grand Design Solitude. It was such a struggle to keep that thing going on the solar because, believe it or not, those huge RVs take just as much power as a traditional 3-bedroom house. It's totally insane. The unfortunate part about all that is we built a business together. We lived in his RV. And when we broke up, guess what happened? He took the RV with him, and he took the business as well. So where did that leave me? Well, it left me living in my uninsulated 9x12 shed on 30 acres by myself in the middle of nowhere with no job. I lost my job and I lost my home within a matter of days. I honestly think most people in my position would have given up, but I was way too stubborn. I felt I was so far into it that I didn't want to turn around. I felt so invested into the land and into the lifestyle, I didn't want to give up. I felt like I would have been a failure. The biggest reason people fail at going off grid is the money portion. The next biggest reason that couples break up when they go off the grid is because of pre-existing issues. Any problems you had before, they only get magnified by 100. So, for example, my ex-partner really enjoyed drinking. He liked drinking a lot. When you go off the grid and you are not nearly as prepared as you think you are, which, trust me, you're not. I don't care how much research you do, nothing will prepare you for living the real thing. So when you go off the grid and you start having problems, which you will, you're going to have problems with your water. You're going to have problems with your electric, with your solar. Stuff is going to break down. You're going to have weather to contend with. When you go off grid, you're more exposed to the elements. You're more exposed to the environment. And everything becomes magnified because you are responsible for everything. If your power goes out, you're responsible for getting it back on. If you have water problems, if you're hauling water, when you run out of water, you gotta go pick it up. Stress can compound very quickly. So if you have a problem in your relationship, whether it is a gambling problem, maybe it is a cheating problem, a lying problem, an overspending problem, a debt problem, a drinking problem, a drug problem, it could even be cigarettes. All it's going to do is cause more problems in the future because everything is magnified because you're stressed. Your goal is to live a more peaceful and humble lifestyle. And trust me, the lifestyle will humble you. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be perfect and have all their problems ironed out before they decide to take the plunge. What I'm saying is you got to communicate. You got to address these issues. You've got to put everything on the table. You need to lay everything bare on the table and communicate with your man. Communicate with your woman. Maybe you're too lazy. I don't think you're going to be able to handle the building projects. I don't think we're going to be able to get through if we have $1,000 expense because you have a lot of debt or you have a very major spending problem. And I'm worried that when we go off grid, you're just going to want to buy whatever the hell you want. Talk about these things first and communicate, because if you can't communicate now, trust me, when you are in this situation, when you are in a dire situation, and unfortunately, I've been in too many of them out here, but when you're in a dire situation and you are trying to problem resolve and you have some pent up resentment towards your partner and it comes out because you don't have power, you don't have heat, you don't have water, things get ugly really fast. You know, one example I could give you is my ex felt that I didn't pull my weight. And you know what? Looking back, I think he was right. I think I let him do the bulk of the hard stuff. And I let him do the bulk of the engineering and the designing. We were running a business together. We were working together all the time. We were building out here together. I wasn't pulling my weight. There was financial stress because most of the money we made had to go to paying his debt. There was stress from the solar power. We had lots of problems with our solar. There was stress with the water. We were hauling in our water. We didn't have a well at the time. Golly, the odds were stacked against us. And we stacked the odds against us without even realizing it. I think it's still light enough. And the third thing I want to talk about that I think breaks up couples when they go off grid is decision making. This is a really big one. If you have two strong-minded people that want to do things differently and you cannot agree on how to do it, you're going to clash. You're going to clash and you're going to clash hard. When you're dreaming together, you know, you're sitting around the table, you're talking about chickens and fresh eggs, you're talking about gardening and having heirloom tomatoes and cucumbers. Maybe you'll have some goats for goat milk. So easy to fantasize. You got to start talking about the not sexy stuff. Like, where's your poops going to go? Where's your water going to come from? Where's your electric going to come from? Are you insulated enough? Is it going to be really freaking hot? Is it going to be really freaking cold? Where's the money going to come from? How are you going to make the money? You know, these are the big decisions that really matter. Stop talking about chickens. Stop talking about goats and baby goats frolicking in the freaking grass. Start talking about roads. How do the roads look? What's our plan for the roads? Are we going to get a tractor? You want to take on a $20,000 expense? Okay, maybe you buy a used tractor for $5,000. You know how to fix it? You a mechanic? You a small engine mechanic? You know anything about solar? These are the kind of topics you need to be talking about, and these are the tough decisions you need to be making. Not the kind of pygmy goat you're going to get. When you are making decisions about building, think about what happens if that person left. All right, would you be able to manage those systems? It goes both ways for males and females, but I think it's more important for females because there's things we simply have a harder time doing. I am a 5'1" female. I do not have the strength to do what men can do. And I can completely admit that and be okay with that. But there were systems out here that we built together that I had a very hard time managing because they were built by a man and they were built for a man. So you two need to decide together that you're going to build systems that either one of you can work on. Not necessarily because you might break up, but maybe one of you die. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about what would happen if you went off the grid and you started homesteading and you set up a whole life together with all these systems, all this infrastructure, and one of you dies? Then what? It's not something people want to discuss. This is yet another unsexy subject that you don't want to discuss, but you need to discuss it. So build your systems to where both of you know. Both of you know the ins and outs of everything. Everything. Ladies, you better know that septic system. You better know that water system. You better understand how that well works and how pressure works and plumbing works. You need to understand electricity. I'm not freaking kidding. Be prepared that you might not always have your partner there for the rest of your life. Stop talking about baby goats. Start talking about if you lose your partner, if you go off grid. There's my cute little doggy to make us feel better. Now, my final message to you guys is to not rush into anything. Take your time. Have the hard conversations now. Communicate. Come up with a really good plan. Really research the systems. Research where you're going, what kind of land you're buying, what you're going to need. Budget everything. Be as prepared as humanly possible. Because even if you are prepared as humanly possible, you're still probably only 50% of the way there. Calculate your energy needs. That is the biggest thing we fucked up on. Oh, God. I'm totally rooting for you guys. I know you can do it. I know you can make it. I want to hear your awesome success stories. I also want to hear maybe if you've had less awesome success stories like me. Let's get a conversation going and let's help each other out. Now you all have that good night. It's getting spooky out here.